Good morning, everyone. I'm going to call the Transportation and Infrastructure Subcommittee to order. First item on our agenda is the minutes of February 14th. Everyone had an opportunity to read them. Do I have a motion?
Move approval. Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion. Minutes approved. The next items are the consent items 2 through 5.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, if I may jump in here, there are two items on today's agenda related to South Central Rail Extension. One of them is on the consent agenda, item 3, which is a request authorization to issue an RFP related to business assistance for the project, as well as item 9, which is a request to authorize an increase to our funding agreement with Valley Metro to enter into the design phase and bring a design contractor on board. Those both were continued from the last T&I meeting to allow for additional time to work with members of the community, property and business owners along Central Avenue. Excuse me. Further time is needed to continue those meetings and discussions. The continuance of the two items will not delay or affect the overall project schedule. So we would request that those be held until the next meeting. So that would be items 3 and 9.
Okay, I just received a card on item 4. Diane Barker, did you want to say something on item 4 before we pass the consent agenda?
Good morning, Councilwoman Williams, Chair, and Transportation Committee, Diane Barker, and I'm in District 7, and we're on the bicycle grid, aren't we? Isn't that
Yes.
it? Okay. I happened to come here by bicycle, another pair of shoes, but I happened to see, I know the fashion police caught me outside my building, truly, and wanted to check it out. They didn't like those other shoes I had. But anyway, the thing is, I saw the grid bikes. I saw a couple riding the grid bikes, coming near Fifth Avenue. So that was interesting. What I wanted to talk to you about, you're expanding the program, and I just wanted to know if you're keeping statistics of the use. You have a business plan. That's good. And I would say get yourself and the Downtown Phoenix Partnership to put in more bicycle racks, because we're having other persons that don't have that bicycle that need to park.
Thank you. Okay, that's all of the cards I have on these items. Consent is now item 2, 4, and 5. Do I have a motion? Or
Move approval for consent items 2 through 5.
2, 4, and 5?
4 and 5?
Yes.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 3 is being continued to the next, I don't think we need a motion to continue it, do we? I don't think so. Item 5 is on the consent. 6 is for information only. Did anyone have any questions? Hearing none. I believe our report was also on item 7 for the CTC. And on item 8, the capital improvement program, I think that was for information only. Did anyone, hearing no comments, we are now going to go to number 9.
Item 9 was also continued until the next meeting, which takes us to item 10, which item 10 is an item that's actually very near and dear to all of us, since it relates to our streets that we drive on and ride on every single day. Last spring, this subcommittee directed staff to work on the development of a revised policy as it relates to street cuts, to work with our utility stakeholders to draft some policy changes that update our street pavement cut policy, which had not been updated in the last 30 years. So all of you expressed the importance of protecting our investment, our reinvestment in our streets and restoring our streets through the use of Transportation 2050. And just as way of a little background, the utilities, because they are underneath our streets, the pavement at times must be cut to get to those utilities. Those are the utilities that bring us safe water and keep our sewers functioning properly. They help our electricity get to our homes and cable services and internet services. At the same time, it's critical that we protect that investment of the streets that we put into it, and that projects, as much as possible, be coordinated with city repaving schedules to ensure that newer pavement is not unnecessarily cut into and can be restored to the extent possible. So the item today proposes changes to our pavement cut policy to ensure that that coordination and restoration can happen. We are very fortunate to have very strong utility partners: Southwest Gas, SRP, APS, Cox, CenturyLink, and of course our own Water Services Department. All of them were very focused and helpful toward finding a solution. We've been working together since last spring to come up with a solution that the city can live with and that the utility partners can also work with. I really want to thank Matt Ligori from Southwest Gas, who worked diligently with us, Rachel Aha from Cox. We also worked with Stephanie Navarro from SRP and others who put forth considerable effort on this issue. I also want to thank our staff, starting with Ray Dovalina, our Street Transportation Director, Keeney Knudsen, City Engineer and Assistant Director, and Brianna Velez, Engineering Supervisor over Utility Coordination, who works every day with our utilities. They've done a great job doing a lot of research, spending a lot of time working on the draft policy and working with the utilities. So with that, I will turn it over to the Streets team to walk through the proposed changes.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the subcommittee. I'm happy today, as Mario laid out, kind of the preamble there, that we're here because of a successful coordination effort between our utility partners, between our city team, to find a great workable solution for our citizens and the condition of our streets. So first of all, as we alluded here, the utility partners we worked with run the gamut of our dry utilities, our wet utilities, and as we mentioned in previous presentation, was that we've had about 7,000 pavement cuts a year in our streets, and that's over 5,000 miles of streets. So this is a really big issue that's near and dear to our hearts. But one member of that we did not necessarily include in the beginning, but when we were working through our this approval process with the Citizens Transportation Commission, they asked us to reach out to the associated general contractors because their contractors often do the work in the right of way on behalf of these utility partners. So we also brought them to the table and got their input and be able to brief them in on the process. So after this length of time, since May of last year, we've had a number of meetings, about 6 meetings in total with the different utility partners and stakeholders. And this is where we're at right now with our recommendation going forward. First of all, to compare it to where we are today with our existing ordinance language, we don't have a 2-year mill and overlay requirement, but we are going to have that with this new ordinance changes if they are approved by City Council. And that would be for impacted lanes, which is actually similar to some of our other peer cities in the valley. So it would be looking at the impacted lanes that pavement cuts actually hit. So we'd be doing a mill and overlay replacement there. But one thing that we also included in there was a micro sealing surfacing requirement on top of the entire half street for arterials, or if it's in a residential street, would be going from curb to curb. So that would be an area to be able to provide a little bit more seamless treatment and also a better aesthetic look to the streets as well. We also, one of the things the utilities were interested in was being able to pay the city to do the treatment on behalf of them in lieu of doing it themselves. That's something that we do every day. We millions and millions of dollars worth of pavement maintenance work we do each year. So it's something that we can easily add into our schedule if the utility partners or the people who are doing the pavement cuts are interested in doing that. We also extended the pavement treatment limits 25 feet on either side of the pavement cuts, whether that's going along the street or actually cutting across the street. We also are going to look at eliminating the surcharge fees. That was a big component of that because we were more interested, less in the fees and more in being able to make sure our streets are in good condition, and when they're cut, they're put back in the way that we need to be able to have a good street that's going to last for many, many years. So if it's outside that 2-year mill and overlay requirement, we also asked for microsurfacing or treatment that would be more extensive than we currently allow. We're also going to move to accept our pavement when we do our pavement maintenance projects quicker than we do today. So we've batched them before. Now we'll accept them as they get completed. So that will start the clock on the 2 years quicker. We also are working on a GIS map that we'll have up in line, which will be interactive, both for our utility partners, but also for citizens to be able to look at, that sees where we're going to be doing our pavement maintenance and also our major projects, so they can see and plan around that and know what's going to be happening over the next 2-3 years. But it also is going to look backwards because of that 2-year mill and overlay requirement. We'll have the pavement ages available when we've done recent pavement treatments. And we're also going to outreach and do more coordination efforts with our utility partners to be able to have a discussion about what we're planning in the right-of-way, but also what they're planning in the right-of-way, so we can have a mutual coordination benefit, because the whole idea is to be able to eliminate those cuts. And this is, if we do better coordination, we're hopeful that that will eliminate the need for a lot of these pavement cuts to happen in our new right-of-way, in our new pavements. And then, of course, the effective date being July of 2017. I will say that one of the big areas was we had a lot of discussion about the 2-year mill and overlay requirement, that piece of it. But I'll sit here before you today and say that that is not the biggest issue. I think the biggest benefit, what we're getting out of this ordinance, I think that the two bigger benefits is the GIS map that we're going to have out there to provide this information, and also the coordination efforts. I think those, from the first time we came to the subcommittee and talked, that was a big ask of the subcommittee, was to make sure that we're focusing on the coordination aspect, not just on how much the treatment's going to cost or the fees we're going to charge people for cutting into the right-of-way. So just to give you an idea of what this will do differently, if you look at the top, that's a typical cut that's going along a lane of street. And if we were looking at this before, if our current ordinance, we'd have, if this was 300 feet long, we'd have a microsurfacing requirement on top of that treatment. But if we're looking at payments that are less than 2 years in age, you'd be looking at the staff recommendation down there. That hatched area is where we'd actually have a mill and overlay requirement. And then on top of that, we would have a microsurfacing that would go on top of that to provide a better uniform look to the roadway as well. And then another example here is if they're cutting across the street. Same thing here is instead of, and I would say, because this in our current arrangement, this is what you would see. And if you actually see on the right of the photo, you actually see a cut that's going across the street there. That's what it looks like today when you have a cut. So what we would be doing under the staff recommendation is we would actually have the mill and overlay requirement there for that cut if it's less than 2 years old. But we'd also have the microsurfacing on top of that would provide a much more seamless look to that street at the end. So when we're looking at a lot of these cuts, we as a streets team, as kind of Mario pointed out, this is something near and dear to our hearts from an engineering perspective, from the life of the streets, from making sure our streets are something that lasts for a while. But I'll also tell you, because these pavement cuts, we've heard it from the council members, we've heard it from citizens, this is something that impacts them, whether they're bicyclists, whether they're walking on a street that doesn't have sidewalks, or if they're a roadway, just driving down the road. These kind of cuts impact people's ability, whether it's something that deflects or has a problem with their maintenance of the vehicle, or just the ride of the streets, or just the pride they take in those streets. And so all those things impact what we do. And the reason why I also come before you, not just as a city employee, but also as a resident, as a taxpayer. And so I think that what we came out of this ordinance, with these ordinance changes, is something that I'm happy with from both sides, from my professional side, but also the personal. These cuts right here were something to be approved. This will be a better look after we get done with these ordinance changes, and hopefully some of these cuts will be not necessary. But one of the aspects here is this is actually in my neighborhood. These are taken within a mile of my street where I live.
This is personal.
This is personal. I mean. And the thing is, anybody in this audience could do the same thing around their streets. They could go and find these locations like this. But this is one of the things that it drives us, not just from the professional side, but really from the personal side. So the path going forward, we've met with our Citizens Transportation Commission, and they've unanimously recommended these ordinance changes. Now we're here before you today, and we're hopefully getting approval here as well to move forward. Our intention is to be able to come to mayor and council at the policy session on April 11th. I will note that because of some recent state law changes, we wanted to be really conservative in looking at this, and the fact that there are requirements for posting if there is additional fees or increases in fees that may be going on, even though we're not talking about fees, but we're talking about additional treatments that may cost additional money to the folks who may be cutting into our streets. So we did post 60 days out for the April 11th requirement, and there is actually a 10-day posting requirement before the April 11th as well that we'll meet if we're still scheduled for that April 11th meeting. So as we're here. That concludes our presentation. If you have any questions, we'd be more than happy to answer them.
I do have 2 cards. Uh, Would you like to hear them before you make up? Matt Lagoria, who has been participating all along the way, and thank you very much for all the time you've spent.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, members of the committee. My name is Matt Lagoria. I'm with Southwest Gas. I want to thank you for allowing me to come before you today, and then also for the attention that you've paid to this item over the last 8 or 9 months. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank staff for the effort that they've put into working with us to come to this agreement. I think the agreement before you today strikes an appropriate balance between allowing the city to protect the investment that they're making in streets over the next 34 years with T2050, and then also allowing us to protect our bottom line by not having to spend too much money in pavement restoration. So we think this agreement strikes that appropriate balance. More than that, we really appreciate the coordination efforts that have been put in place as a part of this plan. The coordination meetings that we'll be doing on a quarterly basis with staff, both at the management level and at the lower rank and file level. It will allow us to better coordinate our efforts so that we're not getting in the right of way and cutting streets unnecessarily. The GIS map is another huge thing for us that will allow us to plan accordingly and design our projects in a better manner. So we're reducing the need to cut streets. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have, and I just want to thank everyone again for the effort that they put in working with the utilities.
Anyone have any questions? No? We just really appreciate all your efforts, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
I believe we have a Cox representative, Rachel?
Thank you, Councilmember, members of the subcommittee. I'd like to echo most of Matt's sentiments. We do really appreciate the time that staff put in, recognizing that each of us utilities have a little bit unique circumstances and issues when it comes to these types of ordinances, and really working with all of us to make sure that everybody got a fair and balanced conclusion to this. And like Matt, I really am looking forward to the coordination in the GIS. I think that's going to benefit all of us as we move forward. Speaking with my construction folks, we've already seen some benefits of some of those meetings and some of those conversations. So I think that, like Matt said, this is a great balance and it's going to serve all of us well. Thank you.
And thank you for all the work you've done on this. We really appreciate it.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. Any questions, comments?
Want
I
to
started to
thank,
say vice mayor, but
No.
you switched sides on me.
It's okay. We'll all
Councilwoman.
answer to it.
Okay.
you think 2 for 1?
Uh-huh.
Thank you, and thank you to Matt, Rachel, and their colleagues for working on this for many, many months. I think all of us on the subcommittee learned a lot about the different options as well, and I'm glad that we came to a good solution. People spoke wistfully of the old coordinating meetings from years ago, and it sounds like we'll be able to do even better and have better treatment or better technology to help us coordinate. I would love it if we could also coordinate with Maricopa County and the County Islands as well. I think a lot of the construction that'll be happening in the southwest portion of our city goes through areas that are both county islands and city, and the more we can work together, the better. I've learned that people just see streets and assume that they're City of Phoenix streets, and it would sometimes the city will be doing something on one side of their home, private business on one side and the county on another, and they would love to have one path out. So I think the more we can work with more partners. Could you speak a little bit more about the website, and will this be available on the internet? If a utility wanted to put their new gas line in, could it take data, or how will it work?
Madam Chair, Councilwoman Gallego, our intention with this is to put all the information that we have available for our work and our that we're planned for both of the pavement maintenance activities, which would be our overlays and also our microsurfacing treatments, but also our major CIP projects. So anything we're doing for a major street improvement. The one issue when you deal with some of the utilities, though, they do have some, I would say, homeland security issues and things like that, with be able to post their information and what they have planned in the right of way in their facilities and their assets. So to the extent we can include some of those pieces of information into our map, we will work with them to do that. But that is obviously up to them as with their ability to be able to share that kind of information publicly.
if
But
they
our
had a-
intention is it would be an internet site for us that would be available to both to our utility partners and to the public. We would provide more detailed information, probably the technical information that we can provide, they can do and put into their own maps dealing with our work in the right of way.
And will our water department data be available if they're doing street cuts?
That would be our intention as well.
Be very, very efficient. Thank you.
Vice Mayor?
I would just like to thank everybody and all the collaboration and partners, because I knew talking in many conversations of how we got here, and it was a push-pull, but at least we got to the center. I really appreciate those that are impacted, the companies that are impacted were able to come to the middle and able to work with the city on developing this program. It's very important because I feel the same way as all of us. One thing's happening over here, another thing's happening over here. Why is it happening? None of really our constituents don't realize. They just think it's always the city and realize that all these different dynamics happen within different companies of the utilities and everywhere else. And so it's nice to now have a coordinated effort. And so when somebody calls, we could call and say, hey, what's going on over here? What is happening? Because we're all coordinated, and be able to say this is what's happening, and everybody's basically on the same page. So I really appreciate it. And thank you for doing this. I know it took a while and it took a lot of effort, but thank you for sticking with it and getting it done. So really appreciate it.
Want to make a motion?
Sure. I move item 10.
Second.
Okay. Moving staff's recommendation forward. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for all your hard work and patience.
Madam Chair and members of the subcommittee, item 11 is the solid waste update from the Public Works Department. Karen Peters is here from the City Manager's Office, along with John Trujillo, Public Works Director, and Ginger Spencer, Assistant Public Works Director, to give an update on the 2016-17 solid waste program.
Good morning, Madam Chairman, members of the subcommittee. We are here again today to talk about solid waste. One of the very critical public health benefits or services that we provide to Phoenix residents is collection and management of solid waste. This is an enormous endeavor. If you've ever had the opportunity, we have terrific programs to tour our transfer stations and meet our drivers. We do terrific work out there. I'm very proud of our team. It's important also to understand that the solid waste management function is a highly regulated environment. Federal, state, local laws and regulations all govern how it is that we do our business. And so I'm also very, very proud of the creativity that we are able to bring to this in light of that very regulated environment. And so with us today, as Mario indicated, are John and Ginger to walk us through it. So thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, we're here today to update you on our program. I'm going to talk a little bit about the history, where we've been, where we are now, and then Ginger Spencer will talk about where we're going, how we're going to get there. Then I'll follow up on some potential items to think about for the future as well. So as you recall, in 2013, the mayor and city council did approve our Reimagine Phoenix initiative to achieve a 40% goal by the year 2020. And at that time, when they did approve that, we were at a 60% diversion rate. And since then, we are currently at 20%, and that's based on three-prong approach, which is offering new solid waste programs, focusing a lot on education and communication, and the last, which is partnership development. And so, as you can see, the national average is at 35%, and our goal is 40%, but then council did approve later on the 2050 goal of zero waste by that time. And so how have we gotten here? So in 2013, we were at 16%, and it was based on strictly just our current programs that we had in place at that time. And 14, 15, we've added several programs. which is a SAR&R, which is Save as You Reduce and Recycle, which is allowed a smaller container at a lower cost. We also added a green side curb organic container, which we are offering to 150,000 residents at this time, not all of them. Just a small portion are in that program at this time. And then we have a clean green program at our transfer station. Last year, we did add a food scraps pilot program as well as a mattress collection program as well. So that's how we've gotten to 20% at this time.
Thank you, John. Madam Chair and subcommittee members, so how are we going to get to 40% by the year 2020? So as John mentioned, we start off at 16%. We move the needle 25% to get to 20. But this is where we're headed. And so as John mentioned, we have our Save as You Reduce and Recycle program. And that's where you can go to a smaller container and save $3 a month. But we need to continue to increase our participation in that program. And Recycle Bank is also helping us in that effort. Also, the Curbside Green Organics program. As John mentioned, right now that's a pilot program that's offered to 150,000 residents. We have 400,000 residents that we serve each and every week. And so in order to help us get to 40% by 2020, we want to increase that program citywide and make it available to all of our residents. Palm Fronds. That's a very unique program that we're all excited about that's getting national attention. And this is with the company that's based out of California, Palm Silage. They are relocating to our Resource Innovation Campus. They're actually going to be the first company on the RIC. And they are taking palm fronds and combining it with dates and making livestock feed. And so that also is going to help us increase our diversion. So we're very excited about that program, and they're going to be occupying 10 acres of land out at our campus on 27th Avenue. Bulk trash green organic. So right now we offer a bulk trash program 4 times a year. And right now you put out your big and bulky items. We see TVs, we see cardboard, but we also see green organics. And right now all of that waste is being taken to the landfill. So what we would like to do is we're proposing a new program, and this would be under Felipe Moreno, one of our deputy directors, where we would change how we offer that program. And twice a year, it would be green organics only. This is heavy material. You've probably seen it. It's palm fronds. It's your yard trimmings. It's grass clippings. And so what we'd like to do is just twice a year when we have the highest trends, when landscapers are going out and doing that work, it's the fall and the spring, to be able to do green organics only. And we think that would definitely help increase our diversion, and we wouldn't be sending that waste to the landfill. Eco Stations. This is one of our newest programs that we just implemented this month. And this is really to help residents who currently do not have access to recycling. And so it could be individuals who are living in apartment complexes. And so what we've done is we've put an Eco Station in every council district. And we've put it in areas that are located close to multifamily. And this is in partnership with the Parks Department. And Jesse Duarte is heading this effort for us. But this is focused on our top 10 in the BEN program. And it's really going to make, what we're trying to do, it's our first step in making sure that recycling is offered to all of our residents. Textiles. This is another area where we want to do a new program. And there is definitely interest in the community. As well as nationally. And what we found is when we did our waste characterization study, the #1 item after dirt and broken glass that we find in our recycling containers, the blue containers, is textiles. It's clothing, purses, shoes, belts. And so what we want to do is offer an RFP program where we would get those textiles out of the recycling bins and get them to nonprofits and for-profits who could benefit from the textiles and repurpose them or resell them. Food scraps. As John mentioned, we did a pilot program here, but once we're able to take the bulk trash program for green waste citywide, what we'd like to do next is then offer a food scrap recycling program for our residents. What we found in our waste characterization study is 15% of what we're currently finding in the trash can, 56,500 tons, is actually food waste. And so we want to be able to get that material out of the green trash can, and we can actually compost it. Right? We can add it to the yard waste, and it would help our 30-acre facility, composting facility that's coming online this April. Green Business Leader Program. I like to call this John's brainchild among many, but this is an exciting program where we're recognizing businesses that are about being sustainable.
This is our version of a green biz program. So if they're recycling, if they're doing any type of diversion, we want to recognize them for their efforts. We just started this program. We've had 10 companies sign up to date. Some of them are DeSoto Central Market, the Farm at South Mountain, Local First, and definitely there are others. Our 10th company was a Pilates studio, which I'm really excited about. But as you know, a lot of the workout facilities, you constantly see all the water bottles, being thrown away. And so we're really excited about this opportunity here. And it's just a way to recognize them for their efforts. And lastly, just leading by example, and that's working with city departments to make sure that we achieve a 60% diversion rate in our efforts. All right, so this is our action plan. This is how we get there. This year, we're going to achieve a 21% diversion rate. Next year, we'll have our composting facility up and running. Palm Fronds will be up and running for a full year. Our community engagement program with Recycle Bank will have been operating for a year as well. And then we're going to get that textiles RFP out on the street. So that's a 28% diversion rate that we'll achieve next year. Then taking our bulk trash program citywide, also changing how we do the quarterly bulk trash pickup, and doing a transfer station food scrap program, that will get us to 31%. So the transfer station food scrap program, really quickly, what that is just like we offer the Clean Green program for landscapers who are bringing us just the clean green organics only. So that's your grass clippings, your yard trimmings, tree trimmings, excuse me. We offer them a minimum $10 discount at our transfer station. So this would be the same thing for food scrap haulers. We would offer them a discount as well. That will get us to 31%. And then we would offer the residential food scraps program. And by doing all of that, we believe we are going to achieve a 40% diversion rate. So these programs that I mentioned to you, some of them, they're expanding our services. Some of them are offering new programs, and then the others are just changing how we do our business. Some will be able to generate revenue. Some will be no cost. It'll be zero neutral. And then some, there may be additional costs for additional staff, trucks, containers, that sort of thing. But why are we doing all of this? What we know is if the more waste that we get out of the landfill, the green organics, the food waste, the textiles, the more that we can get out of our trash containers and our recycling containers, it's a revenue driver for us, and it'll save us money. So what you've got there is $4.5 million that we'll be able to gain in revenue from our recyclables. We'll be able to save $1 million a year from not having to pay processing fees for contamination in our recyclables. Another $3.3 million in savings, cost savings from compostables, not sending those to the landfill. And compostables is both our yard waste and our food waste. So for every 100,000 tons that we're able to divert from the landfill, it's about $1.7 million in savings. And we are sending a lot of trash to the landfill. John says 1 million tons each year, right? Enough to fill the Chase Stadium 7 times, and enough to go to the moon and back 14 times. So it's a lot of trash. So for every 100,000 tons that we're able to divert, it's 1.7 million in savings. And then also, too, we're doing our part to benefit to reduce greenhouse gas reduction. So, all right. So a sneak preview of our status of our current budget, where we stand. So our budget is basically made of people, trucks, containers, and contracts. And as you can see there, that is the bulk of what our costs represent. Our last fee increase was in March of 2009. And so since that time, what you see here is what has actually increased in our budget and what has decreased. And as you can see, the top items where we've had significant increases, the top 4 items, that's what you see in the general fund. Those are things we cannot control, right? But the items that we can control, you'll see there's been minimum increase or actual significant decrease. So, our vehicles and large equipment up just 6% since 2009. That's about 9 years. Salaries, 5%. But then if you look at our containers, parts, fuels, that sort of thing, that's actually been reduced significantly. So we're doing our part to make sure that we're efficient. And all these programs and services that we're talking about, we've been able to add that by finding efficiencies within our budget. Also, if you look at our households since 2009, it's gone up 3.6%. So we're about 400,000 households that we're serving. And our staffing has actually gone down by 2.2%. We actually have less staff today than we had back in 2009. But we're doing our part. If you look at where we were in 07, 08 with our debt, we were financing almost 184 million in debt at the time through GO bonds and our solid waste funds bond program. To date, and this is through John's leadership, we've been able to pay down $94 million in debt. We're very proud of that. and so you can see the efforts there. So we're doing everything that we can to make sure that we are managing our resources wisely. When you look at our revenue and expenditures, you can see the blue line is our revenue, and then the gold boxes there, or orange, that's our expenditures. And as you can see, our expenditures are getting very close to where our revenues are, and they will only continue to do so. So that's a challenge that we continue to work at. We continue to look for efficiencies and cost savings wherever we can, but it's something that we need to be aware of as well. So we're here today just kind of letting you know what the current status is of our budget, and to provide you with an update on our Reimagine Phoenix initiative and where we stand, and then how we think we can get to 40 by 20, and then also zero waste beyond.
And with that, Madam Chair, members of the committee, as Ginger mentioned, staff has done a wonderful job in managing their program. They really have. We have a wonderful staff. Pretty much all of them are sitting over there to my right, to your left. And they are very innovative, and they are very good at what they do. And you can see the difference that they have made in this program. However, for us to continue to move down the path of achieving that 40% by the year 2020, as well as zero waste by 2050, there's other things that we're going to have to do to get there. And there's some considerations that we would like to look at over the summer, as well as other things we're going to be looking over the summer, and we'll be coming back in the fall to talk more about it. But we would also, what other cities have done was look at it, see if we can exclude green waste as an acceptable material that's put into the garbage container. Again, we're going to have a compost facility that will be able to process that material, and it's a resource that can be used for other purposes. So we would hope that in the future that could be changed and where it would be excluded from the container. We would also, in the future, which we can do that now, but we really don't, because we would like to provide great customer service, is enhance enforcement for recycling and green organics to make sure that things are done the way they're supposed to be done at this time. As you know, Ginger mentioned, we are spending a lot of time, money, and effort on material that's not being put in the right containers. And we would like to, in the future, have enhanced enforcement.
I have great curiosity how you would do that.
Well, currently, as Karen mentioned in the beginning of this meeting, that there are regulations that require us to abide by. One of those regulations is to check a certain percentage of containers every year, garbage and recycling. So our staff does go through, and we do check containers on making sure it's properly bagged and make sure there's the right materials in the containers. However, we don't enforce that. We do education, and we educate, and we'll educate residents that what we found was right or wrong, and then we move on. What other cities do is they'll give them a red sticker and they won't pick up the container. So if they put the wrong things in the recycling container, they'll leave it until the resident removes it, and then the city will come back and pick it up. And that's being done today in cities in Arizona at this time.
Interesting. Did you have a question?
I have a question about that. So on that sticker, would you inform that customer of what the item is that needs to be removed from that bank? Okay, because there are certain things that I, even till this day, as much as I'm educated on recycling, still don't know, do I put it in here or do I not put it in here?
Yes. Madam Chair, Vice Mayor Pastor, you are correct. And a lot of the stuff that we're talking about is just, people have palm fronds sticking up in their recycling container. They'll put engines in the recycling container, just stuff that really is obvious that shouldn't be in there, that people are doing it because they just don't want to dump it the way it's supposed to be.
Okay, so I was gonna go with the engine. Is there a way in the future to use those parts or do something with an engine? I don't know, I'm just curious.
Madam Chair, Vice Mayor Pastor, yes, there is. And there's some future programs I know Ginger and her staff are looking at, which is called a material exchange program, where we're looking to see if we can implement something like that here in the city of Phoenix, where residents can exchange that type of material instead of throwing it away or putting it in the recycling container.
That'd be really cool.
So that is something we're going to be looking at.
Thank you.
The other two items that you see is, other cities do this and we don't, is implement a licensing and permitting fee to regulate and motivate private haulers to participate in the diversion program. Other cities in this state, except for Phoenix, have a permitting and licensing program where they require the haulers to submit their numbers on what they've collected, both garbage and recycling. And at this time, Phoenix doesn't do that. The last item is a common good fee. As part of our role in the city of Phoenix as the state requirements is we're required to regulate all garbage and recycling in the city of Phoenix, whether it's commercial, residential, industrial, multifamily. So if there's complaints or anything related to any of those issues, we have to respond to that and notify the private haulers to correct what they have done, or work with the sites that they correct that as well. However, they don't pay a fee at all related to garbage and recycling. So we, as the City of Phoenix residents, are supplementing some of that program as part of our requirements to do that for the state of Arizona. And so hopefully in the future, we'd like to possibly put together a common good fee that everyone would pay their fair share as it relates to enforcement and education that's required of us to do on a yearly basis.
Could you give us an example, and also what's the frequency?
I'll say, Madam Chair, so good examples would be, one, they collect garbage and recycling in a time that they're not supposed to, prior to 6 o'clock. We get complaints about containers being overfilled and spilling over on the ground at certain commercial sites. They don't have enough garbage required. And so we have to respond to those and let the owners know they either need to be collected more often or they need to get a larger container. Or we have to go to the private hauler and let them know that they're violating the rules and they have to collect at a different time. And so those are good examples. To how often I'll have to look at that. I don't have those numbers, but we do
Not
that, and we,
asking for anything exact.
yeah, but we can get that, but we do that all the time.
Okay.
So that is the sneak peek, things we're looking at, things we're thinking about. And so I know Ginger and her staff are going to, between now and the fall, we're going to be looking at a number of programs, a number of other ideas that could help us achieve that 40% beyond what she talked about today, as well as going down that zero waste path in the future as well. So with that, are there any questions?
I want to go ahead. I'll have you, Councilwoman, and then I'll have the card. Go ahead.
Let's do the cards first.
Well, it's Dee Dee. Do you want to come up and ask your questions?
Yes, Councilwoman Williams and Transportation Committee. I very much support the recycling and these efforts, and personally, I'd like to be involved in a pilot program, the green composting, with where I'm in the building. I think the city has a valuable opportunity in the fact that the city uses a lot of affordable housing funds, and they get a lot of these from, HUD, and they put them into places where your directives could be put. Also, the city just signed a $2 million contract with the management company for senior housing. The city owns senior housing. And there may be a disconnect in the fact that the city, and Dustin wrote about this, the city for apartment buildings and commercial buildings apparently doesn't pick up on recyclable items. And you know what you're doing with that and your city-owned property, that needs to be taken in consideration. But I think there needs to be more, because I've had hands-on opportunity to be involved with Dunlap McGee, education of them in this program so they can convey this to their managers and actually make it happen. I've been in contact with Cindy. I have read the contract, and I have seen all of the directives, and they need to be enforced, and you folks are the ones to do it. Thank you.
Councilwoman Gallego?
Thank you. And perhaps, I appreciate Ms. Barker on that update. I think we've been talking more and more at the Housing Subcommittee about our environmental impact, but we probably ought to do more of a status update as well. We talked about leading with the city's efforts, and that's one where we do have a lot of influence. And I think from your presentations in the past, we've learned we do not have perfect compliance, and we still have some educational opportunities as well. And I don't know, so I know how Recycle Bank works at private homes. How does it work at city housing?
Madam Chair, Councilwoman Gallego, at this time, we're focusing more on single-family residents because we can't control the multifamily areas. That is something we probably will look at in the future. And the reason being, as Diane mentioned, the city does own a lot of housing as well as multifamily housing. And currently, we are working with the housing department on doing some pilot programs at some of their multifamily sites, working with their property manager to see what's working, what's not working, and see what we can do to improve potential recycling at multifamily sites. And so we are working with city-owned facilities at this time.
And to add to what John said, we are working with Cindy in the Housing Department as well as other city departments. And as we meet with them, we're talking about all the programs that we offer. So if it's recycling, if it's food scraps programs, that sort of thing. And what we're doing is we're taking that information back to Recycle Bank to see how we can partner. So for an example, is we recently met with the library department, and they do training and workshops all the time. And so they said, you know what, why don't you come? And we can get people there, and you can talk about the Recycle Bank program, because that way it would get to people that currently aren't, are part of our single-family program, but they are Phoenix residents nonetheless, and this is a way that they could participate in the program and take advantage of it. So we are working on those things.
In past years, we've had great successes with the Super Bowl and the Champ Game in promoting sustainability. Can you give us a sneak preview of what's to come with March Madness?
Yes, as you did, the prior two events, we did very well. We did 73% diversion at those sites. Our goal was 75, we came close. And then the following year, we upped it to 83, and we exceeded that to 83%. And so this year, we're shooting for zero waste. So we're going for the gusto this year.
Hey, go for it.
And so we have, again, as I mentioned earlier, when you challenge your staff, they come through. And I truly believe staff is going to come through on this one. They have some great programs they put in place to help achieve that zero waste goal. And so it's something where we can control at least the downtown and Hance Park. Those areas is what we're controlling. We're working with Glendale and Stadium to see what they can do to achieve that as well, to meet our goal too.
So Chuck Hamstra and Jesse Duarte have been instrumental in those programs. And actually from the food waste that we're able to collect from Super Bowl, college football playoffs, and now Final Four, we were able to take that and to turn it into compost that we were able to use at a parks pilot program where we're actually putting the compost out at 5 different parks throughout the city, and then we're evaluating how it actually performs. So it's very exciting. We're silo busting, we're partnering, and it's just some exciting things that we're making happen here.
One of the more popular programs that when I talk about in my district is just the cameras in neighborhoods and alleys. Could you update us on that program? And there's continuous demand for more cameras.
Yes. So right now we have purchased 8 cameras that we're able to deploy throughout the city to help with deter illegal dumping. And so that's been very effective there. But we only have 8 sets of cameras that we're able to deploy. So one of the other things that we've done is we started putting up signage as well. Don't, no illegal activity, no illegal dumping, that sort of thing. And that's been able to help our efforts as well. So as we're able to continue to find savings, we look to continue to add more cameras. But what we say, if you're having a problem, let us know. We also work very closely with Neighborhood Services Department. They also have some cameras that they're able to deploy as well. And so by working together, we're doing our part to try to deter that illegal dumping. But we look to add more over time as we're able to find savings.
Wonderful. One of the cameras, as you know, was very successful. We had a mattress hotspot.
Yep.
That I think we have now addressed.
That's right, that's right.
Perhaps Goodwill is partially to credit as well.
Yes, we do want to recognize Goodwill for their efforts in helping us recycle mattresses. And they've actually recycled, I think, 6,000 mattresses to date, so we're really excited about that. Yeah.
And then from the very micro to the bigger picture, could you remind us about the debt service schedule and when we might think we might be issuing debt again?
So we're currently in discussions with Denise Olson and the Finance Department. We have our enterprise fund, but there are multiple enterprise funds, and then it also impacts the overall bond rating. So we are working with her. We actually have another meeting this afternoon to figure out the timing of when we would go forward with our bond rating.
Wonderful. Recognize I ask that as there is
Yes.
great uncertainty in
Yes.
those markets.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor, do you have some questions?
I do. Curbside green organics. I don't know how to, I believe one of the incentives offered to customers was to get a smaller green trash can,
Yes.
and you would gain, or you would save $5. But then to get a brown can, it would cost you $5. So I heard that it's going to roll out, if I heard it correctly, to a broader group. Are we still charging $5, or how is that going to roll out?
Madam Chair, Vice Mayor Pastor, and I'll let Ginger add to this, but currently, I know staff is going to be reviewing between now and the fall that particular subject. Save as you reduce and recycle, and see what the rates would be or could be that would incentivize residents to go to the smaller container and add the green organics container. So that's something they're going to be looking at and coming back to you in the fall to see with some possible recommendations on how we can achieve the goal that you just talked about.
So currently, we have 5 trucks, and we have 5 staff to do the curbside green organics for the 150,000 residents that it's offered to. But in order to expand citywide, we will need additional trucks. We will need additional drivers for that. And so part of what we're doing is just looking at the current program. How much is it costing us? How much are we bringing in through savings? How can we actually phase this in over time to try to alleviate, some of the costs so it doesn't all hit at one time? As a part of that, though, is trying to see how we offset those costs. So currently, by charging $5, it does offset some of the cost of offering that program. So to answer your question, Vice Mayor, what we need to do is continue to do our analysis and then come back in the fall with a recommendation. I know that you've asked us to look at offering the TAN container, the third container for free, as some other cities do, in an effort to help increase our green organics diversion. But again, it's trying to offset some of those costs. And the $5 right now is not offsetting the full cost, it's just some of that.
So I guess to incentivize me
Yes,
would be to give me a smaller can and then give me a brown can.
yes.
That's how it would incentivize me to do what I need to do. Because we're talking about human behavior.
Yes.
And so that's why I'm like, okay, how do we move this so that then we can meet our goal? And now I'm understanding that well, there's always cost associated to stuff, but maybe we could look at how we operate during the pickups. I don't know. You guys know that. You guys are the experts. I want to commend you for the eco stations because Scottsdale, that's where I learned about them. And a constituent that lived on the border, well, not a city constituent, lived on the border and said, this is what I have to do to recycle when I live in a multifamily. So I'm really happy to hear that we have these stations. Um, do we have one downtown?
We don't currently have one downtown. The closest one would be at Indians Still Park, but we have one additional container that we'll be working with the mayor's office to see where the mayor would like to put that ninth container. But the closest one to downtown would be at Indian Still Park.
The reason why I'm asking about downtown is because of all the multifamily that's being built. And also ASU. I mean, they do a really good job of sustainability, but you know, they live in multifamily areas and you train and then you can't do it. So I think that's one of the struggles people face. And my other one was we have a green, a blue, possibly a brown, and then will we have a yellow for the food scraps?
So the way that the food scrap program, the way we envision it, is that you would actually have a smaller container that would fit on your kitchen counter that you could put your food scraps in, and then you could take that food scrap container and then place it in your tan container for the day of pickup. So we're not looking to have a fourth container.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, perfect. I was just curious. I was like, okay, I'll make it yellow. And thank you for the Green Biz leader. I think more we incentivize and also demonstrate good practices and good behaviors of companies, that helps the city in the long run, but it also demonstrates there are companies out there willing to do this and how it benefits not only their environment, but also all of our environment. So I really appreciate that effort. And then one more I have, multifamily. That's a big one right now, but I think that, is it Echo stations will help with some of that. I think this is a bigger dialogue that we have to have with our multifamily association and working with individual multifamilies on what does that look like, what's the cost, how do we do it. But I think that's a great way of moving forward and getting to our goals. I do feel that as a city, and if it's a city housing piece, that we can make those efforts happen. I think of Park Lee, that's in my district, and the manager. It's a new manager, but they're very active, and I believe that they would be more than willing to provide educational monthly meetings because I believe they come together and get together and to me it's pure education and able to demonstrate what they can do, how they can save the environment, but also how they save across the board. And so I really would like to explore that.
So Vice Mayor, to that point, just so you know, Park Lee does have recycling.
Okay.
We're doing that now, and we are, and that's what's going to make these multifamily programs successful is not the people, it's going to be the property manager. And that's who we're working with at this time.
Well, then I commend you, John. You answered all of my questions and you're 10 steps ahead of me. I love that. I mean, that's so exciting. I also, before I stop talking, I want to, John, I don't know if this is your last meeting.
No, you got to put up with me one more time.
One more
One more
time?
time.
Okay, but
Yeah.
I want to commend you for all the efforts that you do and actually saving the city. You're going to be, I'm sad. And so it's going to be whoever goes into that environment really are going to have some high expectations to meet a lot of these goals. And it's good to hear that we're going to hit 0% at the Final Four. That will be the legacy that we leave. We'll say the John
Yeah.
Trujillo legacy. So good to hear. Thank you.
Madam Chair and Vice Mayor Pastor, just to comment a little bit, though, I appreciate the comments, but really, in the end, it's all about the staff. You know, we can come up with these weird ideas, but in the end, it's the staff that does that puts the programs together and also does the implementation. And that's the only reason why we've been successful is because of the great staff that we have. And we have a lot of good staff in our program. And I'm proud, and I always brag about the staff that we have, and it's exciting. I'm not worried to be honest with you. We have,
Worried.
no, we have some good staff moving forward, and I know they'll be able to do bigger and better things as well. I truly believe that.
I was going to tease you earlier because you weren't smiling, but now you're smiling. So
Every time he talks a little bit about it, the smile gets
Yeah.
bigger and bigger, I've noticed.
Well, he said he's coming back for the ribbon cutting at 27th Avenue, right?
Yes, I'll be there.
I agree, we have an outstanding staff. That's probably one of the most, don't let the other departments hear this, but the most creative people in it. And I think a lot of that's due to your leadership. You're being very humble about it, but you really encourage them to be creative and take a risk. And that's not always the case, and it shows everything that you do. When it comes, I believe that every city building should be in this program. I don't care if it's the fire department, it's the airport, it's wherever it is, I think they should all be participating fully in this program. I also think that it's, for the apartment, I know that article was in the paper, but I think part of the problem is I think we ought to be talking to the planning department. And part of our code should be that there has to be allocated space for recycling and for any other programs that we have. Especially, I didn't realize we were responsible for everything that happened in the city. I think that's a justification to put it in there, and I think we should pursue making that happen because that gives you entree into everything. So I think it's extremely important. I'm glad you're going to be here one more time.
Hopefully it's
before you
under
retire.
good circumstances.
Well, always. And I thank you for putting this all together.
Madam Chair, if I could just
Yes.
one plug, we are doing a recycling competition here at City Hall. Starting on Friday, or actually on Thursday, kicks off Recycle Madness, and the different floors of City Hall will be competing against one another to see how well we can do in terms of diversion. Ginger staff has been really helpful in getting us set up to do that with understanding where the baseline is so that we can compare before and after. And so I look forward to the 12th floor winning that competition.
that it does include 11. All right. Even though I naturally do it, you'll see me in the garbage cans picking up cans. But here we go.
I thought we were going to
ready?
break you.
Are we ready?
And the Parks Department has already put out a challenge that they expect to win. So to all other city departments. Challenge for
Sounds like
Parks.
fun.
Yes, yes.
But thank you for the presentation, and I look forward to having you come back this fall. I know you're going to have some great ideas, some suggestions, and probably some tough things to decide about. So thank you for doing this today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We have one more item on our agenda, and this is something a couple council people had asked us for, to create a transparency website. And I took this to heart, but I also told staff that I wanted to know our current status and what was already, could fall into that category that's on our website. And so I had them do somewhat of a matrix, list where things are and where we stand, and I also wanted any associated costs if we had to make major changes. So Tony, I will turn it over to you to give us an update on how we're proceeding.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairwoman Williams and subcommittee members. I'm Tony Macaron, Special Assistant to the City Manager, and with me today is Denise Olson, our Chief Financial Officer, Matt Arve, our Chief Information Officer, and Chris Meyer, City Clerk. And as you mentioned, Chairwoman, we are responding to a request from 3 council members, from DeCiccio, Waring, and Nowakowski, to create a transparency website. The council directed staff to follow up with this subcommittee for further follow-up. So that's why we're here today. In the memo requesting the transparency website, there were 7 different areas that the council members requested: discretionary funds, travel, transportation, membership dues, conferences, campaign finance reports, and lobbyist registration. So we'll walk through each of those areas today. In the category of discretionary funds, we currently have online the city checkbook. You may all be familiar with it, but over on the left-hand side of the screen, it's posted on the phoenix.gov homepage already. It's called the City Checkbook, so that's on the left-hand side. When you click on the City Checkbook, you get over on the right-hand side of the screen the transparency site that comes up. And then on the bottom, you can search by council member, mayor, or any city department. And then drilling down into the checkbook, this is what you'll see when you search that site. Over on the left is the company that the check was written to, and then in the middle part is what the service was for. So, for example, we took, thank you, Denise, we took finance in the February checkbook for finance, and there's on the top all about people. So that's who the check was written to, and then in the middle part, temp employment services, that's what it was written for. If there is a desire to expand this checkbook at all, we are open to that as well, if the council so desires. Then we move on to travel. Travel in the request, as the council members requested, very detailed information. That information currently is not online. There is some information online in the city checkbook, and that's where a check perhaps is written to all seasons travel when someone is traveling to a conference. But they asked for very detailed information. That currently isn't online. If there's a desire of the council, we could have the mayor and the council offices post what you see often if you travel to conferences or for other city business, and that's the travel and conference training form. So after that form is filled out, that has lodging, airfare, registration. After that is filled out, the travel is complete. That form could be scanned in and posted online if that is the desire.
So, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
So Tony, this is what we fill out.
Yes,
So
Vice
we
Mayor.
have it, I guess, in a paper form. It's
Yes.
just not online.
Yes, Vice Mayor,
Okay.
currently it's in a paper form.
Okay.
And that, after the travel is complete, it's sent to the finance department for final transactions.
Okay.
Tony, did they ask specifically for mayor and council, or is it for across the board all employees?
Related to this specific request, it was for mayor and council. Transportation was the next request that they had, and for security reasons, this information cannot be posted online. Transportation was meaning the mayor's security detail, where the mayor was going and the different events that he's attending, and for security reasons, this information can't be posted online.
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
Or
Councilwoman.
actually more of a comment. So I used to work at the state of Arizona and was pretty involved with a former governor's travel. And so I know some people on their security detail, and I asked, do other elected officials disclose this? And they really laughed at the idea. They felt like it was very inappropriate to disclose security information, and no other elected officials do it. So I think that's a relevant point for us in this debate.
I do too. I think, quite frankly, you've done a great study on it, and it should be eliminated from your list.
Thank you.
So, to that comment, I'm not getting, for me, we're in a very, and in your staff, but we are in a very back and forth, partisan type of back and forth dynamic when we, as a council, are nonpartisan. And to try to weed out little things just because politically they're not in line with that person, I think is uncalled for. The other piece is that I don't recall Governor Ducey or any other elected official, even Trump. We know the costs, but we don't know all the details. This is part of being a mayor. It's part of the responsibility of really being an elected official. Being an elected official, as much as we are in it, is a 24/7 position. And I'm sorry, mayors have lives. They have personal lives, have kids, and whatever the game is, I think this is totally uncalled for. So I am glad I agree with my colleagues that we're going to remove this one piece due to security reasons.
Thank you. Membership dues is the next area. Currently online, that is concluded in the city checkbook. Conferences, currently online. Yes, there is information online, and as we mentioned earlier, if you'd like to expand that, if that's the desire of this council, we can expand it by scanning in that travel form that is filled out. The next area is campaign finance reports that they requested. Currently online, the campaign finance reports are. So if you go to the city clerk's website, it's right on their homepage, campaign finance, and you click there and all of the information is posted there. Under the lobbyist registration, that's the last area that they requested. And is that information currently online? It is as well. Again, on the city clerk's homepage, right over on the right-hand side, it says lobbyist information. Residents click there, and the form is there, as well as other helpful information for lobbyists to fill out.
Can I interrupt just on that point since we had that? I've asked for staff to, legal to look at our current ordinance, and I will bring that back. I want to beef it up, and I also think that it would be very easy to put a computer in our lobby with a sign that says, if not registered, please register here. Make it simple online, and so that it's easy to remember, and if you're not, you can do it, and everybody's legal. So that will be coming back to us soon.
Okay, good. 'Cause
Just wanted you to know.
so in that, not in that, is there enforcement?
We're adding that.
Okay, thank you.
Legal's drafting language
Okay.
right now.
All right,
Just an FYI. So.
thank you.
Thank you. So those are the 7 areas that the council members asked us to look into in creating a transparency website. And this item was posted today for information and discussion, and happy to answer any additional questions.
Do you have any questions?
Just wanted to
Okay.
thank you for your leadership on the lobbyist item. And I would like us to look at if people are paid to advocate before the council. If a lobbying firm has subcontractors, we ought to be disclosing that too when we have people who are testifying. It's important to know if they're residents who are there on their own or if they're there because they're getting paid to do so. And we've had some incidents where people have maybe made claims that they were here, that they were there as grassroots individuals representing themselves when they in fact were getting paid. So that's an area of interest for me.
We can incorporate that easily.
I do think if we do continue to look at this website, the one item that I do sometimes get asked about is council members attending sporting events. And so maybe if you did purchase your own ticket, there'd be an opportunity to disclose that you purchased the ticket, because sometimes there's questions about whether there were gifts in that particular area. So that was the one area where it was, right now, there didn't seem to be an opportunity to disclose, whereas with travel, you have multiple opportunities already, and I don't know why we need 4 opportunities to
Yeah,
disclose.
but I think too on the gift clause, I don't know, you were, Chris, you were setting up a site that would help us register any gift, $50 or more, which would include all the sporting events and some of the other major ones. And when is that supposed to be effective?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, yes, with the changes to the gift policy the council adopted, we are creating forms that will, to start with, be fillable PDF forms that can be filled out online and then filed online. The idea is that a database will be developed where that can all be done online. That will not be ready immediately. There was no funding and design yet on the database, but as soon as we have the items implemented from this one, we can move forward with the database and we'll begin to do that.
We caught the hint. And it would be accessible to the public?
Yes.
Okay.
It would be very similar to what we have now for campaign finance and what would be being implemented for the lobbyists.
Very good. Do you have any other questions?
Nope.
Vice Mayor?
I have a question. What would the cost be to, at the front of our webpage, to put a tab? I don't know if it's called a tab or a link, I guess, stating they would be able to click on that link, and if they're looking for discretionary funds, travel, membership dues, conferences, whatever it is that they're looking for about us, because it seems it's about us, that it would just be very simple for them just to click on that link, and then it leads them to where these questions are.
Thank you, and Madam Chair, Vice Mayor Pastor. So on the left-hand side of the screen is a small version of the city's homepage. And currently, the city checkbook is there in the middle portion of the homepage. Also over on the top left, it's mayor and city council. There's already a button there. So we easily could, if people click on the mayor and council button, it could be posted right there on that area.
Smart.
Or it could be one of the blue buttons for residents to click on. There is no cost involved. It's just reformatting the homepage. And then we would have the other information redirected is what the technical term is that it's called.
Okay.
But we would just redirect all of those other areas into that one homepage with the 7 requested areas and any other information that you choose to add.
Okay, so there's no cost.
I would personally think that is the solution
Yeah.
to this. I'm not willing to go spend a lot of money to recreate something that's available there if you really want to look. And I have been advised by 2 of the 3 council people that they have lost interest in this project. So I think that you have done a lot of homework. We've come up with some creative solutions, and the comments here today to continue on certain items, I think should satisfy this request.
You mean
So,
from the letter of the 3? 2 of them are no, okay.
2 of them are no
Good to
longer
hear.
interested in what was happening, so. But I think I really want to staff, you have put a lot of time into this and done your homework, and I just want you to know it's greatly appreciated. If there were any questions, it has now been brought to light where most of this information is already accessible, and we'll tweak it and make it even easier for people. I have to say, I've never had a constituent, anyone in the community ever ask me specifically on how to get this information. I think the few that are interested know you can go online to the checkbook or look our campaign funds or our expenditures or whatever, and have always known that it's right there and open to the public. So anyway, that's my comments on this, and I thank you. I don't know, other than the lobbying portion, did you have another?
I have one more comment.
Okay, Vice Mayor.
I rather work on my crime suppression that will help all of us in technology, as he knows what I'm talking about, programming, and would like to put that money towards crime suppression. I think all council members would agree with me on that. So this is how I feel about this. Thank you for all the work that you've done, because it's there. So thank you.
They should not give this project to 3 women.
No.
Who have held very tight checkbooks. So, thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Next is a future agenda. You know, we always start out every pre-meeting we have on this agenda, and it looks like it's going to take us hours and hours and hours, but by the time we get here, it gets reduced very quickly.
We had 2 items removed.
Well, it's fine. Is there anything you want to add on our future? We have the list here, I believe.
And I appreciate your comments about planning, looking at recycling at multifamily. Is that something we could ask the downtown subcommittee to look at, or would that be appropriate for us? Recycling at
I
apartments?
think it comes through, we could do it.
Okay,
Yeah, let's do it.
then that would
Let's
be
do it.
a wonderful item.
Yeah.
I think we could also talk about, is there voluntary programs that we could get the private haulers to do right away while we look
Yeah.
for the city to be more involved?
Okay.
And I am very much looking forward to South Central being on this agenda.
It will be.
Okay, I have 2 more cards for public comment. Sean Pearson.
Good morning, ladies, Madam Chair. My name is Sean Pearson, and I am a South Phoenix resident and also a business owner in South Phoenix. And I wanted to just make a statement about our excitement and also concern about the upcoming business development, the RFP that is being continued. We are very vested in the project being a success from a community perspective, and we would invite and formally request that we be considered in the discussions as that RFP is being prepared. There is a collaborative that has been formed that is community-centered, but is inclusive of our government partners, education partners, all the business sector, and the very eclectic group that makes up the culture of South Phoenix. And we just want council to know that that group stands ready to be in support of the project being a success, but we definitely would like to be included in that work. Thank you.
Thank you. I can't formally respond to that, but I want to thank the Vice Mayor for continuing this for further inclusion of businesses and other interested parties in the process. Pearson.
Thanks for that.
Thank you, Chairwoman Williams, and the rest of the women that are on the subcommittee. I am not a lobbyist, I'll let you know that. I am a citizen, and I am concerned. I learned years ago that I was supposed to participate with government, and I think, you know, what you do is you originate ideas, you implement, and then you should look to see that there is enforcement. So I'm coming to you with that. And this has to do with the safety standards. Phoenix is the federal grant recipient for funds, and it is a huge player in the Valley Metro. And I received a disc at my doorstep from FedEx. It came from the federal government. There's a requirement in the light rail started in 2000 basically with our PTA and started being built and implemented in about 2008. The 45th legislature of Arizona implemented minimum safety standards for light rail. It was in Title 12. Then the 50th legislature in 11 under John Nelson, they passed the fact that the federal law required that there would be a review of the safety measures, and for good reasons, because you need emergency, you need standard operating procedures, all of this. What happened on this disc is that I'm not a computer genius, but I was able to. It was difficult. Maybe I wasn't supposed to get it off there, I don't know. That the fact is that I have 7 pages of over 50 directives that the light rail is supposed to have and I've reviewed it, standard operating procedure and emergency. I presented it to Deborah Stark. Deborah Stark had a very good following up in Lincoln. They talked about, they had the union there, they had the public. Dan Carroll was there. He wants total transparency when it comes to light rail. We have, obviously, I'm for mass transit, and we're being able to move people in it, but we have problems. You know, we have 1 bathroom along the whole rail, and we apparently, there were stories about from the union of having to clean up because people stay on there and actually use it as a toilet. I ride this regularly and so forth. My interactions with people, I engage with people, and you know, 95% of the time it's good. I am asking our public officials to get out and use transit. Go in numbers if you feel that you're spotted and you need all this extra security. I've seen the mayor going around town by himself, and he's getting along okay. The thing about it is I could even, day and night, I have used public transit around the valley, and it's going on 3 decades because I've chosen this lifestyle, and I'm still here to tell you about it. The thing is, okay, I don't have your position. However, I am being recognized. People are going, didn't I see you someplace? Didn't I know you? Maybe it was Sal DeCiccio. He says, Miss Barker, I got you on TV. I said, I don't need to be on TV, but I need you to get this right. So I'm going to offer these pages to Deborah Stark. I want to see it's followed up for. And the other thing, let's watch ADOT, because ADOT wouldn't give me this information. And it says that in the 50th legislature, ADOT safety oversight information is considered public record. Okay, so I'm going to go tell the governor. Thank you.
Thank you. Hearing none, we are adjourned.